So if you're watching this video, you're moving to Colorado. Or maybe you already live in Colorado, but you're buying a home. You're just not sure where yet. You've heard about Aurora, you've done some research on Aurora, you've heard about Brighton, you've done some research on Brighton. Well, look no further, because in today's video, we're going to be comparing and contrasting the two cities, going over cost of living, pros and cons, and a bunch of other super useful information for you to help make your decision on where to live when moving to Colorado. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video.
So we're going to start with Aurora, Colorado. Now we're going to jump over to the computer just to give you an idea of the sheer size of the city, as well as its general location, around the Denver metro area. So let's go.
Aurora sits directly to the east and adjacent to Denver, Colorado, as you can see here on the map. Now, the total population of Aurora is almost 400,000 people. We're pushing 393,000, 394, depending on which estimate you look at. Now, like I said, these are estimates because they're taking from the last census and kind of projecting into the future. So 393, 394, give or take 1,000. As you can see, with the landmass that we have here of Aurora, we're looking at 163 square miles. It ranges from Adams County here in the north, right up against Denver International Airport, to Arapahoe County, kind of where midway down here where Buckley Space Force Base is, and to the south where you have Douglas County.
And of course, with the size of the city, this puts Aurora at the third largest city in the state. Now, that's followed directly behind Denver and Colorado Springs, with Denver, of course, being the largest, as it is the capital city. Of course, a city of this size pretty much offers everything you could possibly want to do, from theater groups to music appreciation to music education to dog training, pottery classes, you name it, the city offers it. The city of Aurora also boasts 103 parks with over 8,000 acres of open space. So if you're the outdoors type, the city's got it for you. The recreation and sports activities are very numerous, from adult sports, children's activities, you name it, the city has it. Now, we can't cover all of them in this video because they are so numerous, but we're going to put a link in the description below. I suggest you take a look and just see for yourself what the city has to offer in those areas. I can tell you, it's a pretty big page. If you live within the city of Aurora, your commute time is about 29.3 minutes, I think was the last stat that I read. Now, that's a little above average for most American cities. However, with that, the city's public transportation system is quite extensive, from numerous bus lines that take you to anywhere you would want to go within the city, as well as they connect into other bus routes that will lead you into Denver from there. Now, the light rail system in 2017, I believe it was recently extended from I-25 in the south, from the Centennial area around through the city of Aurora and connects into the lines that goes out to the Denver International Airport. So transportation around the major corridor of 225, which is the highway that kind of loops through Aurora on the east side of Denver, they've placed that light rail system there so you can transfer on light rail down to the tech center for work, or you can take that all the way up and connect into the line that goes out to the Denver International Airport, making transportation and movement within the city a breeze. And again, we'll put a link to the RTD system in the description so you can look at all of the interconnectivity that's available in the Aurora area. Job growth within the city of Aurora has been really healthy. Over the past year, we've seen an increase of about 2.8% in available jobs. Over the next 10 years, the city's job growth is predicted to be at about 42.5%. Now, this is above the national average, showing that the city is very healthy in the employment arena. So if you're thinking about living in Aurora, Colorado, you're probably starting to think about, well, what's it cost to live there? So let's talk two numbers that you may be interested in. Day-to-day sales taxes. Sales taxes in Aurora are 8.5%, which is pretty on par with most cities that I've visited across the US. Now, property taxes, this gets a little more complex. Each county in Colorado assesses property slightly differently. In Aurora, being a city that spans 3 counties, each county is slightly different in how they assess and what your tax rates may be. Now, it's pretty close between these 3 counties. You have Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County. I picked Arapahoe just for an example because Arapahoe sits directly in the center of the city and spans pretty much the bulk of Aurora. Now, if you have a $500,000 house in Aurora, Colorado, expect to pay about $3,400 a year. We just had a major tax assessment across the state, and going into next year, we do face higher tax rates. So keep that in mind. If you're interested in a specific county property, we can do a deep dive for you. Just give us a call and we can look in detail at the county level to find out what the tax rate would be on that property and give you a really good estimate of what you'd be paying per year on a house that you purchased in any of the 3 counties that have Aurora spanning. Now, since we've talked about property prices, let's talk about average price of properties. Now, I pulled up the latest stats here from the MLS, and we're looking at to this date. So the latest data that we have is July of 2023. Now, what we're looking at is the average sold price, and this is across all market segments, meaning single family homes, condominiums, townhomes, and attached multifamily. We're looking at an average sale price of $491,857. Now, a year ago, the same stats, we were looking at 508,000 and some change. So we're seeing a negative trend of 3.2% year over year with the latest numbers that we have. Now, again, keep in mind, this is across all market segments. So we're looking at every possible housing type and mushing those numbers together. Now, those numbers are going to vary between single family and multifamily, townhomes, condos, etc. So single families tend to be a little bit higher in that average price point. I'm looking probably more closer in the low fives at 500,000 for the average. So keep that in mind. With interest rates, obviously that's brought some pressure to the market as far as housing prices. So right now, you're looking at some softening of the market and potentially a great time to buy if you're thinking about moving to Aurora.
Alrighty, so that was Aurora. Now let's talk about Brighton. So it is important to note that Brighton is nowhere near the size of Aurora, both geographically and population-wise. Now, the population of Brighton is currently sitting just under 41,000 or so people, according to the most recent census data. Now, projections show that by 2025, Brighton, Colorado is going to be at or above 50,000 residents, which, again, compared to Aurora, is absolutely nothing. Compared to Brighton 10 years ago, that is explosive growth. And as we've shown you in plenty of other videos, it's really easy to understand why. Now, the city of Brighton itself is physically much smaller than Aurora at 21.5 square miles. So nowhere near the population size and nowhere near the actual physical geographical size of Aurora so far. Now, with that population growth anticipated in the next year and a half and the next 10 years, the job market is also expected to increase by 48%, with a lot of new companies and new job opportunities moving into Brighton, along with all of the new people living there. Now, it's important to note that right now, as of the most recent data that we could find for you guys, the unemployment rate in Brighton, Colorado is just under 4% at 3.9% total, which means of the people that live in Brighton, a vast majority of them are working. So let's dive into what there is to do. Now, we've covered in tons of other videos. This channel is Living in Brighton. It's all about working, living, eating, sleeping, playing right here in Brighton, Colorado. So we've talked about this a lot. But if you're new to the channel, that's fantastic. And this video is for you primarily. Now, things to do in Brighton are you can go to Bar Lake State Park, one of Colorado's many state parks. It's got horseback riding trails, it's got an archery range. You can, of course, walk, jog, run, hike, take the dog. There's a bunch of other things to do at Bar Lake State Park. Now, Brighton also has a little tiny water park, if you will, called the Oasis Aquatic Center. And of course, all of the city and neighborhood parks and trails within Brighton as well. Now, if you want to get outside of Brighton to do things, your commute to downtown Denver is going to be 25 to 30 minutes or longer, depending on traffic. To get to Thornton, you're looking at about 20 minutes. So say you live in Brighton and want to go to Topgolf in Thornton, 20 minutes. Nothing too crazy. Lots to do in Brighton. Lots to do outside of Brighton without having to deal with a huge commute. Now, the public transportation in Brighton does definitely leave room for improvement. There's not a whole lot of public transit options available. In fact, there's only 1 or 2 bus lines within Brighton. There's no direct connect to the light rail system, so you either need to go to Denver International Airport or over to Thornton to jump on light rail. Brighton really is a car-dependent, commute-dependent city. Now, sales tax in Brighton comes in at 8.5%, and property tax comes in right around 1% of the purchase price. Now, it's important to note with that I can't give you a hard number because so much of Brighton is new construction. There's a lot of different ways that taxes and HOA and all of that stuff are combined together on new construction homes and calculated a lot differently than, say, a home built in the 80s or the 90s or even the 2000s. So you can budget, if you will, around 1% of your home's purchase price for property taxes. Now, there are some parts, back to the sales tax part, there are some parts of Brighton, specifically the Prairie Center Shopping Center, where you will have a PIF fee, a public improvement fee, on top of the sales tax that you do pay. So just make sure that you are aware and plan for that. It's not expensive. It's only, 30 to 50 cents. I don't even think I've seen it higher than 82 cents to $1 or so, depending on the size of the bill, but it is just an additional fee to pay when you live in Brighton, so keep that in mind. Let's talk housing costs in Brighton. Now, specifically, we're going to be talking about the costs to purchase a single-family residence, as both of us are realtors. Now, on that note, if you are considering making a move to Brighton, buying or selling a home there anytime, we would love nothing more than the opportunity to help you out. Give us a call or text at the number on your screen. We are ready for you. Days, nights, weekends, we've got your back. Now, let's talk about price points. Now, the average cost of a single family residence in Brighton, as of most recent data that we have, comes in at $566,126. So that number is actually about $30,000 more than the median. So you can see the median and the average in Brighton are very close together. So that means a lot of the sales and a lot of homes being bought in Brighton are kind of around that, mid 5s to high 5 price point. Now, it is important to note that the average days on market for a home in Brighton is only 20, which means Brighton, despite interest rates being where they're at, and officially as of yesterday, rates being in the 8s for a conventional loan, Brighton is actually still a very, very, very strong seller's market. 20 days to go from sign in the yard to under contract, in the grand scheme of things, is absolutely no time at all. Now, as you do more research about Brighton before you make the move here or you buy a home here, we've cataloged a ton of videos for you guys to really help make it a lot easier for you. A couple of those should be popping up on the screen here anytime. And as you further your research, go ahead, do us a huge favor, hit that subscribe button. We have tons of new videos coming out at you every single week.